Hello, How To Bob here, and in this video I'm going to show you how I changed the rear brake pads on a 2009 Nissan Altima. I'm going to start out with the wheel chuck under the front wheel to keep the vehicle from rolling. Then I'll jack the vehicle up and I'll remove the lug nuts using an impact driver. Once I get all the lug nuts removed, the wheel cover will come right off the wheel, and then I can remove the wheel and set it off to the side. Now I'm going to remove the caliper pin bolt using a 14mm wrench, and I'll just loosen that all the way up and pull it straight out. Set that off to the side. Now I can swing my brake caliper down. I don't need to remove the bottom bolt, and I want to push my caliper piston all the way in so that I can make room for my new brake pads. So I need to remove the old brake pads, so I'll use a flathead screwdriver to pull them off, and you can see there's a little bit left but not much. I want to remove the inner brake pad next, and again there's not much left on this one. These brake pads came with new springs and clips for the slide here, so I'll take the old rusted one and get rid of those. And I like to use a little brake grease because the brake pads will slide back and forth on these guides or springs here, so I want to keep them sliding as good as possible. So I will lube up each guide spring here, and once they're all lubed I can then put them into place. I like to put the grease all the way around. Just keeps things moving where they should be moving. Snaps into place on the bottom, and then the same thing on the top. So on the new brake pads I only have one wear indicator, and that one's going to go on the opposite side. But before I put these on, I'm going to use some disc brake quiet, and what I do is put a little line of disc brake quiet on each brake pad and then smear it around so that I get an even coat and wait for it to dry slightly before putting these on, and this will keep the brakes from squeaking later on down the road. So now I can slide my brake pads into the channels where I had my spring clips, put them into place. Same thing on the outer pad. And once I get that into place, I'm going to use some brake grease and lube the slide pin for my caliper, because the caliper will slide back and forth on this. Make sure all my O-rings are good. Rotate my caliper up over top of my new brake pads, and then slide my caliper pin bolt back into location, and I'm going to use a little bit of Loctite on the threads, and then I can push my bolt back into the caliper and tighten her down. Again, I'm using a 14mm socket, and I want to tighten this to 20 foot-pounds of torque. Then I can bring over my wheel, slide the wheel back on, then put the wheel cover in. I want to match up the valve stem to the cutout in the wheel, and then I'll start putting my lug nuts on by hand. I want to make sure that I put them on by hand before I use my impact driver, because it might cross thread my lug nuts. Once I get all the lug nuts put on by hand, I can then use my impact driver to tighten down all the lug nuts. And once I got them snug, I will go ahead and lower the vehicle and then use a torque wrench to tighten each lug nut to 83 foot-pounds of torque. Now last but not least, I want to make sure that I go in, start the vehicle up, and pump the brakes. You can see the first time I push the pedal, it goes all the way down, and then each time it comes up a little bit more stiff. You want to do this before you drive. And that's how you change the brake pads in a 2009 Nissan Altima. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. I'm How To Bob. Thanks for watching.